Fight fans talking about Carl Prusa MMA today, getting ready to do an interview with one of the MMA's most popular middleweights. He's making his return to the UFC in May, back in the Apex. He's going to be taking on Cody Brundage. He is Mr. Andre Petroski. Andre, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Doing really good. Did some training earlier and just kind of wrapping up the night.
Absolutely, my man. So you've been doing this thing we call MMA for a very long time now, and I feel like there's so many fans watching it in this day and age. But a lot don't understand. To try to make it to the UFC, I mean, you're not making Conor McGregor money on the regional scene. You're staying up late. You're waking up late. It's hard to have a girlfriend. It's hard to have a wife. It's hard to have kids. You never know if you're going to make it. Even when you do make it, the money gets better, but all these sacrifices continue every day. What's made you want to do this for so long?
I love it, man. I love like knowing that you have like holes and then you work on them and then like you get better at them and then you go spar and it improves the overall result of the sparring. Like that for me, that I love that. Like I love fighting and I love traveling. I love everything about fighting.
Absolutely. For you, do you feel that fighting is more mental than it is physical?
For sure. Um, yeah, I've been fighting for 10 years and before that I wrestled for like 15 years. Moral of the story is that I've had teammates that were like way more talented than I was. Um, I've had teammates that were just like physically like some of the most gifted people in the world, but um, and I've also had the opposite. I've had teammates that were not as gifted and they accomplished way more. So it's like I do think it's certainly mental.
Absolutely. Through your career, you've had a lot of big fights. One really big one early in your career was actually your first loss. It was the LFA fight against Aaron Jeffrey. For you, what do you think you learned from that contest?
Wow. So that was like 2000.
2020.
2020. At that point, I was like going into that fight, and I had never been past like 7 minutes. So I had five fights, all were finished in the first 7 minutes. So I had like no like understanding of how to like manage a fight or regulate a fight or like regulate my energy or anything of the sort. At the time, I also was only able to fight southpaw. I had I would say I had like a couple. I had like a couple combinations that I would use to like get a takedown, but I had like not very good, not the best strike. The tools I had were very limited, and I think that fight made me realize like I had a lot to work on.
During that time frame, obviously 2020, a really big, weird year for everybody with COVID going around. The following year, we saw you on the Ultimate Fighter reality show. Where were you at when you got the phone call that you were going to be on the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, good question. So, the way the Ultimate Fighter happened, and like you said, it was a weird time. So, because of COVID at the time, they kept saying like, "Oh, they're gonna start they're gonna do the tryouts," and then they were like, "We need you to go get COVID tests and have them turned in 24 hours." So I would do that, and then they'd be like, "Oh." Like they weren't able to pull it together. They're going to try again in 3 months. So then they would postpone it and postpone it. And so then I ended up I think I did actually end up getting a fight. I forget how that played out, but the show ended up happening. Finally, it came to fruition. And Yeah, I flew out there, and it was like we still had to quarantine. Everything was like super locked down, and we quarantined for a week in a hotel room by ourselves. And meanwhile, we're about to fight in a tournament, and they have us locked in a room, a hotel room by ourselves. And then at the end of the week, they said, "Hey, make sure you watch their fights tonight." And they announced who the guys were that made the show on the fights because they flew out 11 guys at each weight, and only 8 of them made the show. So they flew out 3 alternates because so many people were testing positive for COVID, so they wanted like replacements. So yeah, that was how we found out. You just watched the show, and yeah,
You're
I
from the
watched.
northeastern region of the United States, obviously that Pennsylvania area. So many great fighters from that area over years. Pat Sabatini, Sean Brady, Eddie Alvarez, Jeremiah Wells, Body Bags. So many great fighters. What is it with that area in fighting?
Well, to begin with, Pennsylvania, like high school wrestling, well now college as well, but I mean Pennsylvania is like arguably the best state for high school wrestling. So, um, I mean, me, Joey, um, Pat, we all came up as high school wrestlers, and a lot of these, a lot of the kids like coming in from wrestling's a great background to start to come into MMA with. And I think that's a big part of it. But now, for the longest time, all the fighters left Philly, like Paul and Eddie Alvarez. They all went to Florida. Paul went to Rufus Sport, so they all left. But now, like, there's no reason to leave. Like, we've kind of built like a nice little team here, and yeah, I'm proud to say we don't have to leave our families anymore.
Joe Piper obviously coming off of a huge win over Israel Adesanya just last month. Overall, what do you make of that performance? How big is that for MMA in that area?
Awesome. Like, I think that he showed that he can overcome adversity more so in the Abu's fight. But, he did have to overcome a little bit of adversity against Adesanya as well. Um, yeah, Joey's a nightmare matchup for anybody just because like he has knockout power, but he can grapple, and it's like grappling is so underrated. Um, so it's like, you know, if you don't knock him out in the first round, he's gonna get takedowns, and then your likelihood of knocking him out goes down significantly. So he's a really good he's a really tough matchup for anybody.
The life of a professional fighter, it's like a roller coaster. You experience the highest of highs, you experience the lowest of lows. For you, how do you think you've grown and evolved from being in this crazy game?
I think that I have learned about myself and what I'm good at. And although recently I haven't been sticking to what I'm good at, I think that you're going to see that I'm going to do what I'm good at again.
Absolutely. So we're going to hopefully see what you're good at doing here May 16th when you make your UFC return, taking on Cody Brundage in the Apex. Overall, what do you think of Cody as an opponent?
I think that it's a really good matchup for me. I think that he does possess some danger. Um, I'm not gonna say there's no threat, but what I'm gonna say is that if I go out and perform the way I'm capable of, I just don't see any aspect where he's a better fighter than me.
So we're going to do this one in the Apex. We're dealing with a smaller cage. Do you find that adds anything to your game? Does that complement it at all?
I personally prefer to fight in front of a crowd, but um, I have fought at the Apex a bunch of times. I beat Rodolfo Vieira at the Apex. I've won a lot of fights at the Apex, and it's very familiar, it's very comfortable. Everything is expected. You know exactly where you're gonna be. You know exactly what time. It's a 10-minute shuttle from your Airbnb to the Apex. Like everything is so like expected and comfortable. Um, and there is advantages to that.
Obviously, you found the UFC many a times now over your career. This is the first bout in the Paramount era of the UFC. Obviously, now different broadcast platform. Maybe more people are watching it now. The bonuses are bigger than ever. What do you make of this new era that we're in?
I love it. I wish they had a finish bonus in the beginning of my career.
Absolutely. You know, another
Yeah.
interesting thing about the night you're fighting at, May 16th. You guys aren't the only MMA show going on that night. The Netflix, obviously Rousey, Carano, they're doing their thing as well. Do you take any pride in being able to represent the UFC in that night?
Yeah, I mean, I love fighting for the UFC. It's the biggest promotion in the world. Um I think it's very unique in the sense that like there's just no other promotion that matches it, and I love fighting for them. I've this the fighting for this company has given me the opportunity to see the world. I fought in Australia, I fought in Atlanta, I fought in Atlantic City, I fought in Madison Square Garden. I fought at TD Garden in Boston. Like I have fought all over the world, and I fought in Abu Dhabi. My second UFC fight was in Abu Dhabi. So like I don't know any other job where they get to do that. So I think that fighting for the UFC, I definitely feel very lucky.
You know, for where you're at right now in your career, what's the ultimate goal? What are you looking to achieve?
I would love to fight in Philly. That would be a special and unique experience, being that they are coming to Philly in August. So as far as like my short term goals, that's it right there. Like I'm gonna do everything that I can in this fight to fight on that card.
Absolutely. You know, when you look at your topology, I mean, it's kind of crazy to see what you've accomplished. I mean, obviously, a bunch of fights in the UFC, fought some of the best guys on the planet, fought internationally. For you, do you ever reflect on the process? Do you ever reflect on the journey?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Sometimes like I'll go back and watch some of the fights, see what kind of like bad habits I pick up on, or like weapons that I use that were successful that I kind of gotten away from. But yeah, it's I definitely go back and look at it.
Another thing I want to do before we wrap up here, I want to go through some big UFC fights coming up, and I just want to get your predictions. So we're going to flip over to UFC Freedom 250, the big one in June. You
Okay.
got there on the feature bout Sean O'Malley fighting Ayman Zahabi. Who we're going to go with there?
I think that's a really good matchup for Sean personally. You got obviously another striker. Um yeah, I mean I don't think Zahabi is on the level of Peter Yan, a guy like Peter Yan. Um and he's not gonna pressure Sean the way Marab did. Yeah, I think I'll go with Sean there.
You know, the co-main event, a big banger at heavyweight, Cyril Gane, Alex Pereira. Who wins that one?
I think that if Siragon wrestles, I think he can get that fight out of there kind of early. Um, Granted, no one has done it yet. So, but I have seen Cyril Gane wrestle, and he can wrestle. So I think that if he decides to do that, which I would hope he would, I think that he can have a lot of success in the grappling.
Absolutely. The main event on that one, what a banger. Justin Gaethje take on Ilia Topuria. Who wins that?
Damn, I hate to say it, but because I love Justin, but I think Ilya's striking is just levels above. He's so fluid, the way he goes to the body, like his whole flow. I just think he's really one of the best strikers in the UFC right now.
Absolutely. We should talk about some of the biggest names in the sport. You've trained with some of the biggest names in the sport. Do you get motivation off of training with some of the bigger names or watching them on TV do their thing?
Yeah, I mean, you go into a fight, no one's gonna hit as hard as Joe Piper, so that'll give you some confidence.
Absolutely. All right, Andre, last question for me, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome May 16th when you make your return to the UFC octagon against Cody Brundage?
We want a finish bonus, baby. We're getting a finish.
Absolutely. Well,
All they had
Andre,
to do was add the finish bonus in earlier, and I would have done that, but I was waiting.
Absolutely. Well, Andre, man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your night to talk with me. Can't wait to see you do your thing and hopefully get your finish bonus, my friend.
Appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely. That's it for us today. I'm Carl Peruzza. Here's the Anacontra. He's Mr. Andre Petroski. Take care, fight fans.